Okay. Hi, everybody. This is Hustle Hub. I'm Giacomo, and today we are with a special guest. He is Jörg Leib. He started his own channel that is called UN Consulting. He has a very special background. He comes from McKinsey. So please, let's tell us a bit about your background and why you decided to start your channel.
Sure. First, thanks, Giacomo, for having me here on Hustle Up. I saw some of your videos. I think you do great work, and thank you for having me here. My background actually maybe it's a bit unusual. So my family background: my father was a priest, my mom was a teacher. So I didn't come with a business background, but actually, given that nobody in my family knew about business, my curiosity was started to learn about business and economics, and that was the reason why I studied economics. Studied economics in Germany at different universities. I also did a study abroad in Finland. And after completing my degree, a master's degree in economics, I did a PhD degree at Imperial College on the economics of climate change. Also at the same time doing some internships and consulting and so on, and then actually joined McKinsey & Company, the world's largest management consulting firm, and spent there 5 wonderful years as a consultant and project manager. And and after 5 years, I took another leap of faith and decided to become a self-employed consultant or independent management advisor. So to this day, I still work as a consultant, but now on my own terms. And maybe we can talk about it later as well. So that's a bit of my background. And you already mentioned, my UN Consulting channel. So you see my little lovely studio here. So that's my side hustle. If you talk about Hustle Hub, right? So basically on my UN Consulting YouTube channel, I provide help to current and future consultants to help them with their successful entry, rise, and exit as a consultant. And why am I doing this? So I think generally there's a lot of hype and brainwash about my industry, because consulting, everybody wants to become a consultant nowadays. And I think it's an awesome career choice, but I think you should understand what you are getting into before taking your feet into that journey. And so I think that's the first one. The first reason I want to make sure that there's authentic and differentiated advice about the industry. The second one, I think there's a lot of demand and supply around how to get in, how to pass your case and interviews and so on. And that's a very important topic. But I think there's much more to say about the consulting career. So actually, if you want to get into a top consulting firm, you should actually start way earlier to think how to optimize your way to get in. So there's much more you can do before the application stage. And then also what happens once you join a consulting firm, and what do you do in your first project? I mean, what do you have to do to guarantee your short-term and your long-term success? So all this phase about being a consultant, I think it's super important as well. And then at some point, I think 95% of consultants leave their consulting firm, and nobody talks about that. It's almost a taboo topic. And I think I want to give people who are interested in a consulting career, already are a consultant, the opportunity to anticipate their entire career and not just how to crack a case, which actually is an important part of UN Consulting as well. But just to say that, and since you were so kind to introduce that, that's actually my channeling. So it's one word. So anyway, I guess we will talk more about it later.
Okay. Of course, the link is going to be in the description. So my question is, all the people that talk about consulting are usually from an American background. So they talk about target schools and so on. Are there in Europe some schools that prepare you best for the consulting world? And if so, what do you have some names? What are the best? Are there some universities that rank better for people that want to get into consulting?
Yeah, certainly there are target schools, and I mean, if you go to UK, of course, it's typically Cambridge University, Oxford University, London School of Economics, the usual ones. In Germany, it would be like University of Mannheim, Technical University of Munich, just to name a few. I think in Italy, it would be Bocconi University. And The reason, I mean, but let me maybe give you a bit more background why these target universities are there. Why do consulting firms love to hire from certain schools? I think there's two reasons, right? I mean, first, consulting firms frequently go to these target universities, give company presentations. You have like dinners with them, so you can have already network with consulting firm representatives before you actually join them. And I must say, so for me, I didn't study at target schools. I was actually at University of Heidelberg and Bonn in Germany, and they both only teach economics, not business. So there were rarely any consulting firms stopping by, and that actually is a disadvantage. And a second reason why consulting firms love to hire from target university, not only because they go very often, the second reason is a certain pre-selection has already taken place once you have managed to enter a prestigious MBA school such as INSEAD, right? And for McKinsey, it's actually a bit easier to hire from target universities where I know people who went to these places, they already went through a tough process. So if we hire from these schools, our risk is lower to kind of select a wrong candidate. So having been at a target university means you have ticked the box on one of these tough pre-selection criteria.
Okay, but you show that even if you don't come from a target university, you can get in.
There's always hope, Giacomo.
So, can you tell us a bit more why you decided to get into consulting compared to other careers like finance and so on, and what were the best strategies that help you get in and helped you in the business case and in the recruitment process?
All right, that's actually many questions you raised. So let's tackle them one by one. So motivation, I think it's an important topic. I mean, for me, as I said in the beginning, I studied economics. I didn't have any clue about what the business world. But then I guess I also was exposed to one of these recruiting adverts because, as you know, McKinsey, BCG, and so on, they're great at promoting their companies also to young talents. And I'm certainly, I mean, you know that the MBB consulting firms, they try to target top students, people who rank best in their class. And I remember that I was especially enticed by the McKinsey adverts because they try to say, okay, we managed to gather all the clever brains in our company. And I was one of these students who was best in class. And so on. So I felt, maybe there's a sense of belonging. I should join McKinsey, right? So they're very good at that. In terms of job options, something, I mean, when I started to try out some internships and to see if consulting really is for me and so on, with a smaller consulting firm with Roland Berger later and so on. And so what I, to this day, really love about consulting is its variety, right? So consulting means it's a project business. That is, every 3 months, you have to deal with a new topic, tackle a new challenge, a new cognitive challenge. You actually very often change the client. You work with a different team in a different location. And that means you are continuously pushed out of your comfort zone. And each project will teach you new skills. And I think this is something that is very unique to consulting. To be honest, I was never interested in picking up a financial career in banking or so on, because you typically sit in an office and in front of 1, 2, or 3 screens, juggling some numbers around. Yeah, you make good money, whatever, but you also make good money elsewhere. And I think consulting is much more exciting if you're in for that. And also, of course, if you manage to get into the top consulting firms, as in comparison to normal corporate career, you get very soon exposure to very senior decision makers, right, on board level, which typically you don't get so fast if you join, I say, in a junior position in a say big corporation. Maybe just to add one topic on, or one point on that, I think motivation for the consulting job is really, really important, because I mean, I think many people just go because everybody else goes, right? So there's this prestige trap or whatever, you know. So you should find out if a consulting job really is for you. I also had some colleagues, you know, who really tried everything to go into consulting, and then after a few months they felt, it's not worth it because it's too much work, or, I didn't like the lifestyle of traveling and so on. So actually, that's actually something also I do on my channel. I'm now actually launching what I call the UN Consulting Job Test Series, in which I invite potential applicants to rank their motivation factors. Is it like because they like the clever colleagues, or they like the work, they want to save the world, they want to become a partner? There's always ideas and beliefs about what a consulting job is about. And so I then in my video series reveal the truth on each of these beliefs and myths, and in the end you get a rated score, how well your individual dreams fit with the reality of consulting life, and get a recommendation how well you fit to the job. Of course, it's a bit of a gamified approach, but it's really an idea to make people think about their job motivation.
Okay. So can you tell us a bit more about the recruitment process and how to prepare for that? Of course, McKinsey business cases are very famous for being quite hard. And how much time do you need to prepare? And what are the best tips you have to prepare for an interview at a large consulting firm like McKinsey?
Sure. Important question. I think also of great interest to your audience. So my first advice is, Giacomo, there's two approaches to trying to join a firm such as McKinsey. One actually is you just take a lucky shot, right? So at the end of your university career, you say, okay, look, there's this cool firm. Why don't I give it a try? I mean, I saw them at some recruiting event and maybe I get in or not. And the odds to manage it this way are low. There are some people who are so cool that just get in, and that's actually very efficient. That's fine. The second approach is that I think that most McKinsey applicants take the long road. That means they try to strategize long time ahead on how to get into say prestigious consulting firm. And there's a couple of things you can do actually, or you should do long before you prepare for case study interviews. Because the first hurdle is to get invited for an interview. And to do that, you need to tick a couple of boxes. So what I teach in my videos and so on, there's two things that consulting firms watch out for, right? And one is what I call the pre-selection criteria, and one is the features that make you unique as a person. Pre-selection is basically you show you have good grades, you have been at top schools. I mean, you have been selected for scholarships, have won competition, just showing that you're competitive and that you are best in whatever you do. That is really what these companies look out for. But then the problem is they get slammed with thousands of applications. I think McKinsey accepts 1% of all its applicants. And so if you want to have a chance to at least be heard, you also need to be unique. You need to do something that makes you stand out. And so if you're just the typical streamlined business school student, you may get hit in the math. And to be honest, I was a student of economics, which also is a math subject. So I think I had to fight hard to say, hey, this is me. But for instance, something like what you do, Giacomo, like this your Hustle Hub channel, I think that's you show you have drive, it's entrepreneurship, and I think I guess if you ever want to apply for such a job, I think this asset you're building will be great on your CV for sure.
Okay. Are there any other extracurricular activities that you think will stand out in a recruitment process, like a consulting recruitment process, like McKinsey's?
Yeah, so I think recruiters love people who show human business experience. So say, if you start a startup as a student, that's amazing because you show that you're interested in business and so on. But it can also be something like interesting traveling experience, like say cycling alone through South America because you show you have courage, you are brave. Or I remember like we had a rather famous singer as a colleague once. So she's a singer. It can be also a hobby in which you perform in an excellent way. Like, I mean, something where you are creative and excellent and maybe a bit out of the usual, right? And because remember, consulting firms want to be able to tell a story about you also when they pitch you to their clients. And so one thing is interesting personality. And of course, the second thing, if you manage to become an expert in a certain field already as a student, right? So let's say, I mean, of course, digital services are big now these days. So if you do anything with digital sphere, maybe also stack up a couple of internships already. So if you already have started to build a profile, like, a professional profile, be an expert before you join, but it's also something that can help you stand out.
Okay. And another thing that I think it's not clear is whether the standard McKinsey consultant has a bachelor, or is a master a standard for getting into a firm like this?
Okay, so let me give you here first the German biased answer, of course, because I was working for McKinsey Germany. So in Germany in general, of course, we have a bachelor master system now as well. Still, the most common stage to join is after the master's degree, and I think it's also the best one, because if you join with a master's degree, after in Germany at McKinsey, you can take part in a fellowship program. So that means you work for 2 years, but get your salary stretched over 3 years, save some taxes, and then you can take a leave. And that means you can undertake a PhD or an MBA or something else. And it's a very structured program. I mean, also I know other consulting firms offer similar opportunities, but McKinsey has structured the program very well. And I think that's the best way to get in. There's also actually people who join with a bachelor. It's fewer of them. When I talked to my bachelor colleagues who joined as junior fellows, I felt they had a very long road to become project manager. And after a couple of years, it just becomes boring, because you still stay in this analyst role, actually, just because you are younger than others. And that's a bit bad. And also you earn a lower salary. And of course, there's a third stage to exit from. It's actually with a PhD, with an MBA, or with job experience. Usually they all enter on equal terms. That's what I did. I joined with a PhD, which is fine because you get promoted a bit faster, but also you have less time to mature, right? So you are expected to develop faster. And there's some more reasons. It's a bit more complicated, but I think in generally, if you can join with a master's degree.
Okay. And what are the most common academic backgrounds people have at McKinsey? Is it economics? Is it business? Is it engineering? And what you think will give you the best chance to get in?
Sure. So first thing, of course, you should study something about your passion, but let's skip that part. You want to maximize your odds to get to the McKinsey. So I think it's probably about 50-50 business economics versus other subjects. So McKinsey is actually quite diverse. And if I now talk about the other subjects, it would be typically subjects around the STEM subjects. So science, technology, engineering, maths, maybe also we also have doctors and so on. Not so many creative people. I think sometimes there's a bit of too much hype about like you can be anything and go into McKinsey. Typically, it's technical backgrounds and business backgrounds. And I think if you have a STEM background, you actually have great opportunity to get in comparison, because there's just fewer people with a STEM background to apply to McKinsey, right? I mean, many business students are aware of consulting work, and I would say there's a lower supply of STEM subject backgrounds, and even few of them apply. So I think, that's a good thing to join. I remember also about like the distinctiveness and the uniqueness. I mean, there's many people with a business background, and of course, if you study business, you can join McKinsey. There's many people with a business background, but I think in terms of trying to build a unique profile, you can also do something else.
Okay. And can you tell us what are the best tips to get ready for the business case? Are there sources or books that will will give you enough insight and give you the opportunity to exercise and to answer well to the business cases you'll find in an interview with McKinsey.
Yes. So again, that's a huge topic and it's super important. I would just like to say the application process is a multi-stage process or recruiting process. So first, of course, you have to write your cover letter, write your CV and so on. And to be honest, if you've done your homework well and have built a great curriculum, then of course you can make it shine now in your application documents. Unfortunately, I mean, I coach many students who want to go into these top consulting firms, and I often do CV reviews, and it's still possible to spoil it, right? You can have a great background, but if you kind of don't do well on your CV, anyway, but that's something that you need to do wisely. And then typically, when you get invited nowadays, before you are admitted to the case interview stage, you have to pass in most consulting firms, also the tier 2 and in some tier 3 ones, an online assessment. And of course, this has the online assessments have blossomed during the Corona pandemic because for a remote assessment, but even we already had it before. And these consulting online tests they often consist of logic test, IQ test, math exercise, but also online business cases and so on. And just to say on that, I mean, on my channel, actually, I provide already some useful resources how to pass the McKinsey and Bain test, how to crack the BCG case interview, and also for people who want to prepare for consulting online tests, I prepared a document with a lot of free links and resources for operation, and this actually you can get from my newsletter list. But anyway, you can find it on my channel. So that's actually the consulting online test. And in most cases, only once you pass the online test, you get admitted to the case interview stage, which is the classic. And typically you have to pass 3, 4, 5 of these case interviews and get a yes from all interviewers to be admitted. So that makes it so competitive. You really have to get a yes from everybody. And maybe just for those who don't know what a case interview is, typically, I mean, if you have an interview on an assessment day, you spend maybe 1 hour with an interviewer. We will ask you, he or she will ask you some personal questions first, and then move to the case interview. That means you get asked a question such as, company XYZ had strong past 5 years, but in the last year profits went down and we don't know why. Can you help analyze? That's a classic question. And then you as a candidate are supposed to lead through this call, to the interview or to this case and solve it. In my coaching work, I noticed that there are 2 very common mistakes, Giacomo, that candidates do, especially at the beginning. And I think I really want to announce them here because that your audience they try to
that would be very useful for them.
Yeah. So one thing I noticed, many candidates just they talk before they think. They go in too fast, and that is actually understandable, because if you are in an interview situation, you are nervous, you want to perform, right? You want to show how great you are, and so maybe you get asked a question, you have a feeling, oh, I really need to rush through the solution, so I give a ready on the spot answer, and often that is not good. Because these business cases are complex and you need to take time to think through. So it's a very good habit that when you get asked these questions, business cases, that at the beginning you repeat what the interviewer said, then also take your time to structure the case, right? And also, so don't rush into answers. That's not the point. It's not about like getting the quick result. So that's the first thing. Think before you talk. And a second thing, or second feature that's even more important to perform well at your business case interviews is to learn how to structure a case. And again, solving a business case is not about getting to the right answer in 10 seconds. Because even if you guess the right answer, you will lose out on the case interview. What a what a recruiter or a consultant who interviews you really wants to see is that you are able to show a logical path to the solution. And that means at the beginning of a case, so let's say if a task is to increase, our client wants to increase sales, can you tell them how to do it? So one approach would be say, okay, we can increase sales by running a promotional campaign, right? And with a promotional campaign, we'll attract more customers and blah, blah. And then you make this single proposal, say, let's have a promotional campaign. But if it's a bad idea to then go into this rabbit hole and do a deep dive on all the stuff before first exploring all the other options, such as increasing the average spend per customer, such as increasing or reducing your price. There's many means to increase your sales. And it's important that you always first keep a bird's perspective. And then once you have provided a holistic view of this layer, then you deep dive in the next layer. It's a bit complex. I hope you get what I mean. In terms of resources, how to prepare for that, I have developed my own system that I also want to announce at some point on my channel, but it's not yet in video format. But for now, I still like the work from Mark Cosentino, the Case in Point book series. I think I like his books because also they teach first step towards the logical case structuring approach. And then last but not least, and most importantly, it's practice business cases.
Okay. So can you tell us a bit more how the lifestyle of a McKinsey consultant is, and how does that change from the starting point when you just get in, and how that develops after 2 or 3 years that you're in the firm? How does the lifestyle change over time?
Okay, let me just think which question I answer first. Okay, maybe let me start talking about the lifestyle first, and how, I mean, when you start, even when you do an internship at McKinsey or the like, how does your typical work week look like? So, I mean, normally, if there isn't just a pandemic ongoing globally, you would board a plane or a train on Monday morning, go to your client, stay there until first day, and on first evening you go back to your home office city. And when I'm saying you stay there, no, you don't sleep in the client's office. You typically sleep in a nice posh hotel there if there's one available. And so you're away from home for 4 days. That is the rule. And then Friday you maybe visit your home office, and then weekend you stay at home. And Monday morning, very early, you will board the plane again. That's the standard rhythm. Yeah, and I mean, now how does this change, or what do you do in your different roles in the consulting firm? That was the second part of the question.
Yeah.
So when you join McKinsey or also another consulting firm, you start in an analyst position. That means you will do all the very important operational work. You will do Excel analysis. You will paint PowerPoint slides. You will interview clients. And that's actually really cool, and you learn a lot in these early years. After maybe 2 years, you become promoted to senior consultant, which means you actually still do analysis and client interviews and PowerPoint and so on, but you're really a bit more self-standing. You have already gained some first experience. You can be basically put alone on a work stream. You need less help from your project manager and so on. So it's a fun role as well. The next big step then is actually to become project manager. And this is where the task you have to execute, that set really changes there, because all of a sudden you become the central person on a project. Both, I mean, you will do then less analysis and less of that, but you will actually, you will coach your team members, and you also have to lead them. You have to tell them what to do. You have to manage the priorities. And also, as a project manager, you become the central storyteller of a team, right? So because you have to plan what this project is about, and you are the central communication point for both the client, for your leadership, for McKinsey directors and partners, and for the team. So you're basically, as we call them, the spider and the web. And then if you stay, you should become a junior partner. And that's a bit of a mixed bag role, because still you are supposed to manage multiple teams, but you're also supposed to grow into a partner role. And when you become partner, you actually become what I like to, I mean, of course, you're an expert, you provide knowledge to your teams, but also I like to call them the chief salesman, because as a partner, actually, you're supposed to sell new projects, and also create opportunities for your junior consultants to work on. And then if you want to make it to Mount Olymp, you become a senior partner at one of these companies. That makes you you could actually earn a couple of millions for your salary. But in terms of what you actually do, you would then maintain and manage relationships with the most senior clients, say CEOs of German stock exchange companies. That's one part. You will represent the firm outside. And also the senior partners, they steer McKinsey, right? Also McKinsey is a company, and there are strategic decisions to make, and that's what you would do on the senior partner level. Now, coming back to the lifestyle, at McKinsey and IMBB, you work 16-hour work days. So that's actually the downside. So you learn fast, not least also because you work a lot, so maybe 14, 15, 16 hours. I think it's regular case. And I noticed that even partners and senior partners would work many hours. So it's not that you become a partner when you lean back, because McKinsey doesn't like that. You have to still perform. And also something that's very important to consider. So when you are a more junior member of a team, so analyst or consultant or project manager, you typically serve one client at a time. So until first you stay with one client. But as soon as you become junior partner or partner, the firm expects from you that you start multitasking and serve 2, 3, or even more clients. And that means the traveling schedule becomes heavier and heavier. And some people like it, some people don't. I remember one colleague who actually, I think he tried to become a partner. He was a junior partner, and then he would, in 1 week, travel from his European client to his Chinese client to his US client, and that for months. And he also had a child. And I was like, oh, wow, that's actually a tough lifestyle. So just that you know what awaits you. So it's exciting, and but also you may pay a price that you're not willing to do. So it's up to your choice.
Okay. And what do you think are the skills that stand out, both for getting in consulting and the skills that you develop the most as a consultant in McKinsey, both hard and soft skills?
Sure. Okay, cool. Actually, a really good question. I like it. Thanks. So how to get in? I think, of course, analytical excellence is super important. I mean, that should be proven by your grades and so on. I think a certain degree of smoothness. So in the sense that you get things fast, right? So you have a, how to say it actually in English?
You think fast.
Think fast, but also capture a situation immediately, right? So be able to ask clever questions to kind of to quickly understand and synthesize the problem. You know what? I would like. Let me try to answer your question more backward. Let me first say what I learned at McKinsey, because I think that's easier to backward induct. At McKinsey, of course, you learn how to run a powerful Excel model and how to build a PowerPoint presentation. That's, of course, the basics that you learn there. But it's not just that. First thing is, at McKinsey, you get confronted with very tough and difficult business problems. And what you learn is how to structure these, how to approach such a problem, and even how to do it fast, because typically these projects are run at a high speed. And especially when you come from science, when I did a PhD before, it's a bit of a challenge to adjust to the approach that consultants do, because in science, you have to explain every footnote to the depth, right? And at McKinsey, you would work 80-20. That means you have to, in the beginning, find out what are really the levers that exert the greatest impact on a project. So that's actually a skill in its own, and it takes some time to hone that. Then actually, Next thing I think is how to tell a great story, because as an analyst you work on the pieces of a puzzle, but as a project manager you actually have to puzzle it together. And when I talk about a great story, means like you start, when you start a project, you already start thinking like, what is the story I want to tell later? What will be my PowerPoint deck from page 1 to 250 with all the analysis I want my team to work on? Because you start with an hypothesis, so probably this is the result we may get to. And if we want to get to that result, what stuff we wanted to prove. And if you find different results, you may change your end conclusion, but it helps to have a draft idea or skeleton in the beginning to go through. And that is a skill I had no clue about before joining McKinsey. That's really something valuable. Something more, you learn how to manage senior clients. I mean, if you work with senior business executives, this is also a typical kind of people or a special kind of people. And you also learn how to coach younger team members. So I think there's a lot I took away. I don't want to give credit for all of this to McKinsey, of course, even before. I mean, I've been a bright student and whatever. I mean, I think I had good basics and so on. And I think it's important to have a flexible mind. It's also important, I think, also something that you're at risk of when you try to join a firm. I mean, obviously, if you have racked up all these pre-selection criteria, you have been picked by a top MBA school, whatever, a scholarship and so on. Some people think they lose the ground under their feet, and they think they are so great, they're entitled to get a McKinsey job. And McKinsey really does not like that. So on a personal side, stay modest, don't be arrogant. Also in McKinsey, it's not about elbow fight and tackling, it's about a teamwork. And actually, as if you do want to try something on your own, it's not like that. I mean, what I've heard, and maybe Giacomo, you can share from your own experience because you have talked to many people in banking as well. What I hear about banking is more competitive, and between people in consulting firms, really not. It's really, actually, there's a strong bond between colleagues. That's nice.
Okay. So is it something that happens just in McKinsey, or is it something that is pretty common even in other consulting firms from what you hear from other people that have different backgrounds?
Happens what? Sorry, what happens?
Is it something that is particular about McKinsey, or is it something that happens all over the place in consulting?
In terms of elbow fighting, or about the skills you develop?
About the elbow fighting or collaborating.
Of course, culture is a bit different in different consulting firms. I mean, I interned with 2 consulting firms before joining McKinsey. Roland Berger has a different image than McKinsey. Still, I would say, though, that also Roland Berger colleagues support each other. And I think also, Giacomo, I think it's the only road to survival. Because these projects are extremely hard, and you need your team, you need your experts, you need your support, you need to treat people well to go through. And then maybe also, maybe that's one of the reasons why consulting is different than maybe banking or other corporate roles. I mean, consulting firms, it's about project business. So each time you work with different people, different teams and so on. And it's not a typical line organization where you say you have 3 analysts in a bank and then only one of them can get promoted to the next level or something like that. Or even, I mean, it's not like there's different people competing for the next role. It's more like people compete, not compete. People try to get promoted to the next role. Of course, there is some invisible competition because you have a pyramid saying that at each step, some people have to leave, you have this up or out and so on. So that not everybody can become a partner, but it's kind of an invisible competition in that sense. You don't compete directly with a colleague for a promotion. It's more like everybody wants to advance and develop and thrive. And I think the consulting firms, I guess also the same at BCG and so on, they're really good at providing this experience of collective growth.
Okay. And you talked about up or out. So when people are asked are asked to leave, is it something that comes out of the blue, or you have a track record where you can understand whether you'll be asked to continue with the firm or you'll be asked to leave?
Yes, so I like your question because this is one of these taboo topics, because typically you talk about how to get in and so on, but also what makes people leave, right? And so upper out, basically, let me just first explain what it means. So upper out means that at the top consulting firms, at least, you're supposed to get promoted. And if you don't get promoted, you are supposed to leave the firm. So what does it mean? And say in a more common corporate job, you can just start, say, in an analyst position, and maybe you can stay in the position for the rest of your life, right? But this is not what McKinsey or BCG also want. They want to have this continuous fluctuation of people, right? So either you grow or you grow or go. And but typically, I mean, this stuff doesn't happen overnight. I mean, it's another topic, but I mean, consultants love and embrace giving and receiving feedback. And so after each project, you will get an extensive feedback. And there will be always some stuff you do well. Always you will get some so-called development goals. That means stuff you should work on. And also as a consultant, you are never perfect, right? So you always want to work harder and work on your skills and personal growth. And but if this is after project, but when there are certain checkpoints, you will get a formal evaluation from not just from your project leader or partner of your project, but there will be some people in the firm who collect feedbacks from different projects, and they'll try to kind of draw a picture about you. It's a very complex process actually, and it's a bit different in different firms, but it's actually we make great effort on that. And then you typically at some point enter a so-called promotion window. And that means that is the time when you're not just being reviewed for your personal development, but actually for promotion. So actually it's a critical time window. And that's actually where you want to ensure you shine on your projects. You want to ensure that the partners you work with love you and hustle and cheer for you when it matters. And when you have a couple of, say, attempts to get promoted to the next level, and only if you miss the last attempt, then the firm would come and tell you, look, I think it's time for you to leave. But to be honest, so there are people who really are made to leave. But also I would say there's a lot of gray zone people. Maybe you say they feel like maybe they go off track or whatever, but also they get increasingly frustrated. They lose motivation about their consulting job, or there's another great opportunity outside. And it can be that they anyway want to leave, and then all of a sudden also the firm says maybe you better leave. So and some people leave before. So there is up or out. It's there, but also it's not the only reason why people would leave. Because I mean, if you have been at McKinsey, there's so many opportunities left and right, and also work-life balance is challenging or shit. And so there's also good reasons to leave earlier. And also something else to mention, Giacomo. I mean, also for me, I mean, I really like my project manager role, but also then, if you look at junior partner, I mean, as a consultant and project manager, you change your client every project, right? As a junior partner, you are supposed to develop certain clients in more depth. So you maybe have 2 or 3 clients, or maybe a couple of more, but the variety for me reduces a bit. Also, you have a different travel schedule. You become more salesman. So also the job profile changes over time. And these are all factors to consider. I mean, at the beginning of your McKinsey career, you don't understand all this. It's just amazing, exciting, and so on. But also, you have a steep learning curve, but at some point you feel like, hey, I now know how consulting works. But then maybe what is the next step out of a comfort zone for me if I want to keep growing?
Okay, it's pretty clear. So, what are the best exit opportunities people have from a job at McKinsey, for example? Where people go to usually after they leave a firm like McKinsey or BCG?
Yeah, so first thing I think one motivation factor I hear a lot about is like, I mean, why do you want to join McKinsey? Because you have great exit opportunities. Yes, folks, that's true. But don't forget, you have to spend 2, 3, or 4, 5 years of your life as a consultant first. So if you just have the end in mind, can be a long way to reach it. Truth to be told, the exit opportunities after having been at McKinsey are amazing. I mean, I get frequently called or even harassed by recruiters or headhunters calling me. Also, a very common exit option is to stay with a client you have served. It's a classic exit, but they make an offer, say, you know, we really like the project work you did for us. Why don't you stay with us? That's an exit option. Then, of course, private equity is very popular, especially in the Anglo-Saxonian space, like in the US and UK. In Germany, I mean, now I'm based out of Berlin. Many people like to join startups and senior executive roles. That can be fun. Of course, also I think if you have been a senior partner at McKinsey, so have basically racked up many years of experience, then you can also do an exit into a board role in one of leading international companies. I think not so much as a project manager, but really if you have a bit more senior exposure there. So that's all these exits you can do. I would like to draw attention to some other ideas. You know, Giacomo, I often see colleagues leaving the firm and jumping straight into something else. I personally recommend people who consider leaving their consulting firm to take some time and think carefully about the next step. For me, actually, it was to say, look, I could now join another corporate firm, and I know I could climb the corporate ladder, and I think I could do that well because I have done similar stuff already at McKinsey, right? I mean, I've been at many corporate organizations, and I know how to succeed, and I feel I know how the business world works now. But that actually didn't feel like a challenge to me anymore as much. So I felt I could do it, but I want to try out something new because it's always about taking a step out of your comfort zone. And so I decided I want to look into options where I'm self-employed and can do work and live my life on my own terms. And that's why I decided to become self-employed. And to this day, I'm an independent management advisor. Now you can say, oh, but still consulting work. You've done it before. But no, it's not just that, because now also I have to acquire my own clients. I have to scope my projects. I have to price. I have to negotiate price and so on. It's all stuff you wouldn't do as a junior consultant or project manager. And also, maybe just to as a final answer to this question, this option to become a freelance consultant or independent management advisor is an option in which you basically do similar work to what you did at McKinsey or Bain or BCG, but you actually can double your income or actually increase your leisure time, whatever. So you do the same work and double your income. And it's an option that I think it's very much underrated. People are not aware of it. And actually, if you are right now a McKinsey consultant and watching this, again, to promote this, I did 2 videos on my channel in which I explain the route towards freelance consulting and also ways how to get your first clients. It's a really exciting topic. And if you're interested in that, you can check it out.
Okay, so what are your best tips to find clients as an independent consultant? What worked best for you?
Sure. So again, couple of ways. So one thing can be a couple of ways. One thing can be your personal network. So of course, if you attend conferences, whatever networking events, and you say, honestly, if you say, I'm a former McKinsey consultant, people like to talk to you. And that's actually one of the great benefits of having stake with one of the most prestigious firms, and people pay respect to you and think you are capable. So that's actually really useful. And if you have developed a value proposition or say a certain profile, something you can do, then it can be very easy for you to open up new gigs. Another way to do this, actually, you want to build a great LinkedIn profile, and again, put your skill set there, maybe have a homepage. And you can cold approach people. You can actually, especially if you're an entrepreneur, you can ask. I would not go now to a big company because I'm just a single guy. But of course, you can talk to other startups, you can talk to business owners, and pitch your skills. So that's more like if you really want to hustle on your own. But there's actually something very interesting happening now on the market at Giacomo. In the last few years, so-called consulting marketplaces have emerged. They act as brokers between clients and consultants. And so the idea is, if you are a client and you have a consulting project, typically you would have to go to McKinsey and hire a very expensive team. But these consulting marketplaces, they have a pool of freelance consultants, and they can offer them to you at a lower price compared to MBB. And you get this great skill set, but you don't have to pay the McKinsey brand, and you don't have to pay the expensive partner salaries, to be a bit provocative here. And for you as a freelance consultant, it's very easy, because you just sign up to these freelance consulting marketplaces, and yeah, I mean, you get leads from these marketplaces, almost like inside McKinsey. You get a project, and they say, do you want to join or not? You have to apply for a project and so on. But it's very comfortable. And given that the brand and the partner are cut out, the consulting firm, so the marketplace charges a lower price compared to MBB to the client, but also still it can pay you a much higher salary, or say fee actually, compared to what you would earn as an employed consultant at an MBB firm.
Okay. And is it just one thing I'm curious about? Does that happen for people maybe that leave a firm like McKinsey, go to the competitor like BCG or Bain, and back and forth, or is it something that doesn't happen?
It happens, and to this day it puzzles me why. So also, after I left McKinsey, I got headhunters calling me, do you want to join BCG? And I was like, not really. I mean, I think it can make sense to intern with different companies. So you want to try internship with BCG, one with McKinsey, one with Bain or Berger, whatever, just to see a bit what is you think is the best fit for you. That can make sense. But I think, again, maybe I'm wrong, but it could also be that maybe if you really want to make a partner in one firm, and maybe you don't manage to become partner at McKinsey, maybe you want to give it a second try at BCG or whatever. It could be one reason. But I think if you leave McKinsey on your own terms, I wouldn't know why you would do the same thing again at BCG. But maybe ask somebody who has done it. So I would also be interested to learn about the answer.
Okay. Because, for example, I know that people in the Big Four, it's more common for people in the Big Four to go from one firm to another, maybe to get a raise or to go to a higher position in the other firm. So that was something I was curious about, if it happens even in firms like McKinsey, BCG, and Bain.
And that's a different story. I mean, I also did an internship with Ernst & Young a long time ago. So I mean, also have a perspective on Big Four. Yes, so I think Big Four is a bit of a different ball game, if I may. Should I say something about it, or?
Yeah.
So I think Big Four is a bit of a different career path. So it's an interesting topic. So first, I would say, yes, you're right. People who have been at Deloitte or PwC, Ernst & Young or KPMG, they like to climb up the ladder, and I would say because I mean, MBB is still more prestigious than working at a Big Four firm. I think there's general agreement on that. But it's not just that. Historically, the Big Four firms and the strategy consulting firms have done rather different things. I mean, maybe it's a bit difficult to understand from outside, but the business and services that these companies provide are rather different. So the Big Four firms traditionally have three big business areas. First is they do auditing. So they make sure that the balance sheets are done correctly by the big firms. And that's number one. Second one is tax optimization. So we make sure that firms like Amazon don't pay taxes or something like that. That's the business segment number 2. And the business segment number 3 is basically transaction advisory services. That is where I was working in my internship. So that is basically helping to value companies, and if there's a merger, and then you have to kind of think how much money you pay for it and something like this. So this is kind of transaction advisory services. That's the classic areas, and these are very exciting, but also they tend to be more routine processes. So they are complex, but they are repetitive. And at McKinsey, I would say, yes, of course, also you do things another time, but still, the projects you do at McKinsey are often more unique. And I think people hire McKinsey consultants not for carrying out a routine task, but to explore some new terrain. So I think it's very different things that you do. Having said that, in recent times, of course, some of the big firms, big 4 firms, have partnered up or have actually purchased several consulting firms. So I think, for instance, Strategy and emerged as a very famous tier 2 consulting firm, emerged from a major merger between Booz and PwC, right? So the idea of PwC was to, actually, that's also important to say, that the strategy consulting projects, they offer higher margins. And so, of course, PwC, for instance, tried to enter this consulting market by partnering up with Booz. But I can tell you, these mergers of big 4, the strategy consulting firms, like a giant such as PwC, with a small but precious firm such as Booz, different salary structure, different culture. What I hear about, it's not always easy. And also, I can tell you that McKinsey, I think, they very often compete with BCG for projects. I have not so much heard about the big 4 plus, because I think they still play in the different areas, or even leagues, so to speak. So yes, I think one reason why I think just many people are attracted to work for MBB, and people think if they join the big 4 firm, maybe it's a springboard to change career. I guess that's what you see, right?
Yeah, that happens quite a lot. And one last thing that I'd like to ask you is, how is the salary structured at McKinsey, and how that changes once you go up the ladder and you become more senior?
Okay, so now I still have signed some confidentiality terms, so I would not be allowed to share the McKinsey salaries now. And so please take a look at Glassdoor for most current figures. But I can tell you in general, of course, for the MBB firms, the first thing, you earn the highest salaries in the US, less in Europe, and the least, I think, in UK. And then, of course, say also in emerging markets, you have lower salaries. Then, of course, you have a tax impact. So maybe in Dubai, you don't pay any income tax at all. In the US, it's also quite income tax friendly. I think, Giacomo, let's not talk about Germany and Italy here, because it's a different story.
Okay.
And then in terms of a progression, so you would, as a consultant, it really depends if you join with a bachelor, or with a master, or with an MBA, whatever. I would say between 60 and 110,000 euro if you enter in Germany. Then as a senior consultant, you get a big bonus and or salary increase. Then as a project manager, you can earn between 130 to 150 K.
Okay.
And then as a junior partner, maybe 250K. A partner should earn 500,000 at MBB firms, can be a bit less, can be a bit more. And if you make a senior partner at one of MBB firms, you will become a guaranteed millionaire.
Okay. Okay. Very cool. Okay. Thank you for telling us about how the salary structure works over there. So I'm done with the questions. If you have anything else you want to talk about, I'm willing to listen. And if not, I really thank you for your time.
Yeah, Giacomo, thank you for the interview and for these questions. I really enjoyed it. Also, I mean, I said I watched a couple of other interviews that you did with, I think, interesting business people from different companies. So I think it's really worth checking them out. I also realized you asked the same questions to me, but you also asked some others. So maybe some people in the audience like to compare the answers because, of course, there's always a bias. Yeah, then I would just like to say, of course, if people are interested in say a bit of insider knowledge, then happily check out my Jörg Consulting channel. I try to offer authentic insights. I'm also quite outspoken, so I'm independent now, right? I like to give honest advice beyond the hype. I love being a consultant, and I love helping you to become a successful consultant if you really want to do it. But also, I want to make sure you take this path for the right reasons. And then, if you're in the game, then let's hustle together. Maybe that's something I can add at this point.
Okay, so I'm done with the question. Thank you a lot for your time. Thank you, and make sure to check out his channel. The link will be in the description, of course. And this is it for today. This is Hustle Hub. I'm Giacomo. See you the next time.
See you guys. Thanks, Giacomo.